good morning, and welcome to the somewhat cloudy sunrise safari. Oh, Franklin's joining in the good morning chorus. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie, and I have Bryan on camera with me this morning, and it is wonderful to be back from... James will be out with Dave on Bushwalk a little bit later, once it gets light enough for them to go wandering about on foot. As most of you know, it is somewhat inadvisable to go walking in the semi-darkness, but isn't the sky just beautiful? Almost feels like it wants to rain. And the cloud cover has stopped the morning from becoming too chilly, 18 degrees centigrade, which is 64 in Fahrenheit, so definitely not the coldest morning we've experienced so far. Although there's still a little bit of a nip to the wind, reminding us that winter has very much arrived. Now, if you were a lioness, which way would you go? I suspect probably not in this direction. I think she's going to be trying to reunite with the rest of the group. Yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, my first drive back out and about, the Nkuhumas crossed into Torchwood, and I just want to get back to tax for a second. Just bear with me one moment. Oh, bumpy, bumpy. Morning reports of one Fuzzy Ngala crossing north towards Mvubu Road from the Juma Dam camera about half an hour ago. Sam and I are following up.
Okay, copy Jamie. Now, check Vulture on the exit.
The reason you come back is the same.
Terrace boundary today.
Copy, I've checked along Mvubu. I'm going to check Gari Cutline now. So what I was doing there, for those of you less familiar with the general game drive practice, so it's not just the WildEarth team out and about. There's also other guides helping us look for the various animals. So there I was speaking to Taxon, one of the guides, wonderful guides from Vuyatela and Galago camps in Juma. And essentially what we're doing is we're planning out our route so that we can utilize our time and our energy in the best and most efficient way possible. In this case, we're spreading out into 3 different directions, all searching for this lioness to try and figure out where she's going. Now, I've been away and apparently been missing out on some spectacular sightings while I've been gone. It appears that there were some stunning sightings of Karula, the female leopard, and her cubs, as well as Shadow, and that mystery leopard Gijima. But what's particularly relevant to us now is apparently one of the Nkuhuma lionesses was seen looking incredibly pregnant and lying down uncomfortably in a drainage line around Buffelshoek Dam. And there was some speculation, and it is speculation at this point, that she might be thinking about giving birth. However, from what I can understand and from the tracks, it looks as though a herd of buffalo went through that area and disturbed her from her place of rest. So could this be this lioness that we're looking for now? And where has she wandered off to? Now, the wonderful thing about working in an area for a particular length of time is that you start to learn a little bit about the animal's movements and which ways they go. Now, in general, and of course it's not a rule, it's a pattern. In general, when the lionesses move across this dam wall area, they go straight north into this block. And they either walk along the dam wall and then across onto a path across this road, or they cut through towards the drainage line on a road known as Central Road. Now, has she done that today? Where are these tracks? She hasn't popped out there. So what I'm trying to do with my spotlight, because it's a cloudy morning, and with my headlights as well, is try and bounce the light off where her tracks might be. Unless, of course, she has actually just hidden herself in this drainage line. we'll have to keep searching to see. I think I see... Oh, those look like her tracks there. Sarah, you were wondering on the subject of the Nkuhuma lioness and the potential for young cubs. You were wondering how long lions carry their cubs. And the answer is, now I'm assuming you're talking about the literal physical carrying rather than the gestation period. So they'll carry their cubs for roughly sort of between 4-ish weeks to 6-ish weeks. It's around 6 weeks that a lioness will bring her cubs out of a den site where she keeps them hidden for the first few weeks of their lives when they're very small and very vulnerable. And there's a very good reason for that. The reason that she doesn't take them straight into the pride, because a lot of the time a pride will have other young members in it. So young lion cubs that will be slightly too rough with the new arrivals. So to counter that risk, and of course all of the other risks involved with having young predator cubs, the lioness tries to keep them hidden in much the same way a leopard might do, in a drainage line, some kind of crevice area, anywhere where they will be protected from predators. But in the beginning they're a little bit uncoordinated and not terribly good at movement, so the lioness will carry them, particularly when they're very, very small. Now that usually ends around a month old to 6 weeks old when she introduces them to the pride, because at that point they are strong enough and coordinated enough to move for themselves, to walk for themselves. And just for completeness sake, I'm sure that's not what Sarah was asking, but for those of you wondering about lion gestation periods, sorry, hold on 1 second, tracks in the road. It's hyenas though. Okay, she doesn't look like she's come across in this direction. I was expecting her to go this way, which is straight east, because that's the direction that the rest of the pride was in. That being said, they might have moved at some point yesterday. Taxon just discussing his route again. We're going to turn around. And we're going to check further to the north, whilst dodging that enormous log that I just gently touched. And while we check carefully for tracks so that I can concentrate on where this lioness has gone, let's pop over to Sam so he can say good morning.
Good morning to Live Safari. You are now on vehicle with Sam, Chevalier and Wium on the back. We're off to see if we can find this lioness that Jamie's just been speaking about. We went down Twin Dams Road and now we're coming back towards the drainage line where she was last seen. So hopefully we can see which female it is. I'm really excited to find out which of the females is lurking around our property this morning. Yeah, we go into the drainage line, but we're also having an eye out for any leopards that might have also crossed into our property. So we've got a number of vehicles out this morning. We've got James out on foot. Jamie's out looking on the other side, and we're going to see if we can locate this beautiful lioness. Let's have a look down the drainage line. Nothing down there this morning. Okay, let's get up here. Ooh. So I'm hoping that potentially it could be the female that we saw the other day at Bushwalk Dam. I mean, apparently this lioness is on its own, so it could very well be the female that was about to, or looked like it was about to have cubs. Or it could just be one of the other females. Because when we were sitting with the Nkuhumas the other night, there was 4 of them, and obviously the other one was off, which was Spotty Nose. spotted nose, and when we followed the 3 Nkuhumas after hours, as it started getting dark, we lost one of them and I didn't know where the other one went. So it was just 3 of them walking down the road. So it could also be the 4th Nkuhuma who left that pride that night. And it'll be interesting to see who has gone. Emily would like to know, is it quite often that you find that it is the female lioness that makes most of the kills than the male lions? Yes, Emily, you are too correct. The female makes most of the kills purely because the male's mane has become so big, and that's become part of a dominant thing. You know, the male lion has got these big manes, and it kind of helps them to get seen by all the herbivores out here, and therefore it makes hunting a little bit easier. But the males most certainly will hunt for themselves, but the females have just become a little bit more efficient at hunting. And that's why you'll often find that female lions will take the kill from, the male lions will take the kill from the females. Just looking for tracks here. Any tracks there, Wium? No tracks. So this is where she was last seen, at the dam. So we've just come round. We're now on a Vuvu road. We're going to see if we can find any tracks around this area. But yes, the male lion over time has generated kind of adaptations such as a big mane and also a blacker, darker mane to try and increase its dominance in the coalition. And so through the adaptations of becoming more dominant, bigger, in terms of wild dogs, everyone. We have wild dogs. That is awesome. Talking about female lions, and then we get wild dogs. Let me just call it on the radio. Stations just located wild dogs at the Djuma Dam. Can you see them? There they are. Awesome. All fine looking for female lions, and next thing you know, there's wild dogs. Okay, they're going now. They're at the Djuma Dam. They're now on the dam wall. They're heading in a southerly direction. There they are. I'm just going to turn around. There they go. They're going down into the drainage line. Let's go down towards the wild dogs and see if we can find them. Jamie's just over there. Let's see what she has, what view she's got.
How's that for not being able to plan a morning? Who thought wild dogs would pop out right next to where Sam and I were searching for this lioness? I'm just going to try and get another view. They've just disappeared into this drainage line. I didn't even intend to come and bump into Sam's sighting. It just happened that this is where I was looking for the lioness. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Jamie. Morning. I was just wondering if those dogs are static.
Negative, Mike. They're mobile east into the scover to the east of the dam wall. I've lost visual for now. I'll let you know when I relocate.
Right, copy that, Jamie. I'm in Vulture
Here we
and I'll
go.
make my way there. But yeah, no, other stations close, so I can definitely move in.
They're chasing something. Come through, they're running, they're coming straight towards us.
Stations on ahead on the
Just
twin
seeing
dams.
flashes of white and tail.
Coming through the drainage line.
Where did you go? This is the wonderful thing about wild dogs. They keep us guessing.
Jimmy, I'm coming from Philmon's Dip. Where would you like me to check?
Tack's last visual is north, east along the Skova. They look like they might come towards Gari Cutline side. I'm just following up here.
Okay,
Let's just stop and listen for a second. Sorry guys, just trying to help some other vehicles get to the sighting. It's gone so quiet. And of course with wild dogs, it's not like looking for leopards or lions. When a wild dog goes coursing through the bush, they almost everything goes completely quiet and just scatters rather than alarm calling and watching the predator. And that's because they know there's no time or energy to be wasted on waiting for an animal to, or waiting for the animal to catch up with them.
Jerry, do you come to Jerry?
Don't understand where they vanished to. Sam's just trying to get hold of me. Go ahead, Sam.
What's your direction?
Sam, I'm close to the junction of Gari Cutline and Central Road. I'm just following up here. I've lost visual of them.
Copy. I'm just going to head down, turn down slowly, see if I can find visual.
Okay, copy. I think I'm going to stand by in this area. Just wait for him to come out. Right. Let's guess. Where do the wild dogs go next? They haven't come across behind me. I would have seen them. They were dashing through this drainage line. They were probably chasing something like an Impala or a bushbuck. And that zigzagged through the bushes and is what's led us on this exciting chase
Copy.
around this area.
Check
Trying
that road. There's one at the junction. I'll go along
to
the
figure out where they've gone.
Okay, we'll do that.
Now, I only saw 2 of them. It's so exciting. I'm going to send you back over to Sam so that I can concentrate on relocating them. Let's see if we can't find those wild dogs for you.
How's that, everyone? Can you see how things can change in a matter of seconds? We're off looking for a lioness, and next thing, wild dogs are in our screen. So Wium just spotted them as a base wall. They just basically jumped in front of screen. So we've got wild dogs all of a sudden, and now they've gone into the drainage line. So Self and Wium are now following this road, Twin Dams, to see if we can locate on the wild dogs again. But I think our best bet is to go down towards the drainage line and actually see if they come through it, because there will be other people that will be driving on the other sides. So we're going to see if we can locate on those wild dogs in the drainage line. But how exciting. It was just 2 days ago that I was with them, and now they're back. So we've been very lucky with the sightings of the wild dogs over the last few days. And that was a little bit of luck to see them jump into screen. I'm so excited. I couldn't even call it in properly on the radio, which I need to do. Such a magical thing about the bushes. You just don't know what you're going to find. Incredible. Good morning, Hayden Turner. I haven't met you before, but I've heard many, many things about you. I'd also like to welcome Taronga Zoo and the head of education. So welcome on safari with us this morning. We are now following wild dogs that have just gone into the drainage line. Hayden, as you know, they are in the drainage line just by Vulture Dam, Juma Dam, and we're going to see if we can relocate on these wild dogs. So it's been an exciting morning already. Let's see what we can find this morning. It was incredible. We were just driving and they just popped up into the screen and just changed everything. That little hello from a wild dog will change your morning in just a matter of seconds, which is super exciting. But they're probably in this drainage line here. and we're driving quite quick compared to maybe what they're moving. Actually, who knows? You just can't tell. Just got to make good judgments. Got to have some intuition here. Natasha from Ontario would like to know, will a wild dog attack a lion? Most likely not. Natasha, the lion is the most dominant animal out in the bush. Doesn't have many other animals to worry about. But of course, if there's a lion that's injured or something, there'll always be an exception to every case. Nothing is set in stone. If there's a sick or old or there's, they have to defend themselves, they'll always protect themselves where they can. Okay, let's go down into that drainage line. This is exciting. So we get on this radio. Mike. Sorry, Mike, I'm just on Twin Dams at the moment. Are you coming through to the sighting, and what is your position at the moment? Okay, let's go and see how Jamie's doing. I'm just going to see if I can get in contact on the radio.
Good morning everybody. You find me on foot today, which is a great and wondrous joy, because around me there is spread all the little wonders of the wilderness, and with any luck we'll find some of them today. A special, wonderful welcome to Hayden Turner, sitting at the Taronga Zoo in Sydney. Hayden, it's marvellous to have you back again. We do miss you here. It would be good to have you back one day, and I hope that you're having a good time there in ye olde homeland. Please send through your questions, and we are waiting for you. We can't wait to hear from you, so chat to us, #SafariLIVE questions at wildearth.tv, which of course you know by heart. Let's go on a little walk. The objective this morning, everybody, on our little walk is basically to spot the small things of the bush, the insects, the tracks, the birds, perhaps if we're lucky, although it's a little windy for that sort of thing, and even some impala. Come here, David. Do not be afraid. They're only impala. Wily antelope, and they will be probably not aware, but they will be deeply concerned to hear that there are wild dogs around the place. David is on camera, by the way. My name is James, in case you were wondering. Can you see them there, Dave?
Only just.
Okay, we can just see them there, and what's interesting, everybody, is that they are looking at us. So there's a Nyala ewe, not a Nyala, an Impala ewe. Her ears are up. Can you see her there?
Yep.
So her ears are up. She's very aware that we're here. We're completely outside of her flight distance, so she's in no way alarmed at this stage. So let's move a little bit closer and just watch her. What you should note is the way she reacts to us. So she's picked her head up. I'm pretty sure she's an impala, unless I've gone completely mad. She is an impala, and there's a young one with her. So what we're going to do is move slowly close, and we'll just observe where that flight distance begins. So there is that classic fight and flight distance, where when you're inside the flight distance, the animal will run away from you. This is if you're a predator, and that impala sees us completely as a predator. Or there is the fight distance, at which an animal will turn around and have a go at you. Now, to get an impala into a fight distance, you'd basically have to corner it in the back end of your kitchen. Otherwise, it will always run away. The same is different for predators. Something like a lion or a leopard will have a much closer fight distance than will a much longer fight distance than will something like an impala. You can see we're still well within the flight distance, although they are starting to move off slowly. They know we're slow, they know we're not fast, but they will be concerned as to what we want and why we're walking across the clearing towards them. Let's just keep going. I think it's unlikely that they will alarm call at us. They'll probably just sort of drift off. So Dave, I don't know if you can tell from your zoom there or at what distance we are. I would say we're probably sitting at about 150 meters, which is about 500 feet. And they're okay at that distance. Now let's just watch as we get closer. So I'm measuring the flight distance at about 150 meters now. And this distance will change, obviously, with environmental conditions. It is windy today, and so they will be on edge, but we are coming right now. Did you see that head bob? Just if you can zoom in on her there, Dave, you can see she's watching us very carefully, and she bobbed her head up, as if to say, hang on, something's going on here. The rest of the herd is watching. Although the rest of the herd behind her doesn't seem particularly nervous. And just enjoy, if you would, that beautiful colour, yellow, in front of her, the last flowers of the wet season. Those are called Senna Petitiana. I've forgotten completely what the English name is. All right, let's just keep going. Now you can maintain this kind of arrangement if you're moving across an open clearing like this, but if you get in behind a bush or something like that, then you start to behave more like a predator with which they're more familiar, like a leopard or a lion. And there we've definitely broken the distance now. So they're now moving away, and they'll slowly start moving further and further into the woodland there. So I'd say the flight distance of these impala for the human being is 100 to 150 meters, somewhere around there. I think that's quite interesting. Right, we're going to continue along the clearings here. We'll then head down to the southeast of the reserve. I'm hoping to pick up tracks of Karula so we can bring in the vehicles, and with any luck we'll see her babies. Probably not on foot, but let's go and see what we can find on the way there. While we're doing that, back across to Jamie, get an update from her.
Yes, Jamie.
What an exciting morning that this promises to be. We've got James heading out on foot to search for the lovely Karula, who actually is probably one of the best leopards to walk on this reserve. And in fact, she's one of the best leopards I have ever walked. She's just so very relaxed with the presence of people on foot. In the meantime, the question on everyone's mind is, including mine, where are the wild dogs? And there's one Inyala in the middle of this block who's looking very intently and very nervously in this direction. And my thinking is that those wild dogs managed to skitter across behind us, and I just want to make sure that they haven't crossed. And a very good morning to Hayden Turner, a name that many of you will recognize. Morning, Hayden. Hayden wants to know which pack this is and whether or not I recognize them. Well, Hayden, judging by the flash of white that I saw from one tail, unfortunately not. I have absolutely no idea which particular wild dog pack this was, and it remains to be seen. I can tell you that I saw 2 adults. Again, that doesn't tell us terribly much, because the pups from last year, the pups that you saw, Hayden, have now grown to the point that they're almost indistinguishable from the adults. Now, there's 2 wild dog packs that we generally see, and I say generally because wild dogs are famous for their ability to cover enormous areas. We're talking home ranges of close to 25,000 hectares per pack. That's a third of the Sabi Sands area that we're in now for one pack. They cover tremendous amounts of distance. They're animals built for stamina and speed. Now, the 2 packs that we have in this area that we generally see, the Investec pack, the one that Hayden saw last year during Big Cat Week, and then the Sands pack. It used to be known as the half-tail pack after the alpha dog that had half a tail, but that alpha male has since died, and the pack has been renamed the Sands pack. The Investec pack initially consisted of 11 adults and 3 adults and 11 pups. The Sands pack was slightly larger in number. It had about 10 or so adults and about 10 or so pups. The Sands pack, as far as we know, has lost quite a few members and the numbers have gone down to around, in total, 14, 15, possibly even less. The Investic pack, considering that they only had 3 adults for that many pups, has done incredibly well, and as far as we know, managed to raise most of those pups to adulthood. Now, the exciting thing about a wild dog sighting at the moment is that all of the alpha females are actually pregnant at the moment, bulging bellies and looking for a place to den for the season. So where they're going to go and have their pups. In general, a wild dog will return to the same den site year after year. James, you were wondering if I'd heard that the Investic pack has lost a few members. I hadn't. That's very sad to hear. And the death of a wild dog is always a tragic thing. I'm just going to have a look at the sun, because I want to take the opportunity to just sit and listen for the contact call of the wild dog. So it's always a sad thing to lose a wild dog. They are critically endangered. There's only about 400, maybe closer to 500 left in South Africa. Most of those are in this area that we're in now, the Kruger National Park. There's somewhere in the region of about 190 odd wild dog running about here. Maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. And Africa's second most endangered predator. Now the sound that I'm listening for as I'm watching the sun is the whoop, whoop, whoop sound that wild dogs make when they want to relocate their pack members. I'm sure they're somewhere here, and as you know, and as Hayden will know, sometimes speed and time is of the essence when searching for wild dog. We're going to go and scour the Buffelshoek boundary for tracks while we do. Let's find out why Mr. Henry is lying on quarantine.
I'm lying upon quarantine clearings because here be a wild cucumber, a cucumis species, and it's quite an attractive little thing of various shades of verdant green, one deep green, the other fairly light green, and these spikes are quite soft actually. It's actually quite a pleasant experience running one's fingers over the top of them. Inside it are a whole lot of seeds, which obviously will produce more cucumis plants at some stage, but they are toxic to human beings, so you can't really put these on your salad if you run out of standard issue cucumber. That would result in possible death, in fact. But what you can do, or what a squirrel can do, is put it on his salad. And squirrels are one of the only animals that I know of that are able to use or utilize this food resource, which looks like a fairly juicy, enjoyable fruit. And you get a number of different kinds of cucumber species. One of them is an enormous sort of orange bulbous thing that really does look very toxic. This just looks fairly inedible. Now that's not the only thing around here. David, if I might prevail upon you to come a little closer, because I've taken my life in my hands here, I have, everyone, to show you some very dangerous plant. This is called the devil thorn, and here in my hand are the thorns. Sorry, one of us is crushing our radios, David. I suspect you, to be quite honest. There we go. That is the devil's thorn, and it makes horrible, horrible thorns. You can see the spikes there, and when you're walking along, you stand on them and you yelp like a small child. And in them, of course, are the seeds of the plant. And I was saying that there wasn't too much colour around the place earlier on, but actually these guys have got some very pretty little yellow flowers, one of which I will show you. Here we go. Oh no, that's actually the cucumber flower. There's the cucumber flower. Dave, you pop over here. There's the cucumber flower. Now, if you can believe it, that little yellow flower, tell me when you got it. Got it? That little flower there becomes the cucumber. So it gets pollinated by some form of insect, and then it will become the enormous and toxic cucumber. But here, Dave, just behind you, are the last yellow flowers of this devil's thorn. Now there are a number of different plants here that are called devil's thorn. but this is one of them. They will probably open a little bit in the sunshine. Let me just show you again these nasty thorns. So the flower was, at one stage, one of these, and if you stand on one of these, the yelp that you will let out will be profound and loud, and obviously those stick to the fur, but mostly the underside of the feet of the various animals that walk through here, especially, I suspect, the elephants, and that is how they get spread. One last thing in this little patch is this purple flower, and this purple flower is also known as a devil's thorn because the pod of this thing actually looks like the horns of Lucifer himself, but I don't see any of the pods here. So two kinds of devil's thorns, and people often say, well, is there any point in learning the Latin names of these plants? And I think that there is, because when I embarrassingly don't know this one or the other devil's thorn, but because English names and often local naming traditions call them the same thing, or different plants the same thing, learning the Latin name of a plant immediately tells you its relationship to other plants, and I think that's quite an important thing. Alrighty, there are some zebra just down over here, so let's see if we can go and find them. They were just around the corner here. They are just through here. TB, you're interested in whether if we run in the bush, I'm just going to check the wind. That was purely for your edification, because I don't know if you saw that. Let's just do that quickly. TB, I'll get back to your question. Can you see that? Yep. This highly sophisticated wind testing device is an old sock given to me when I was the best man at a wedding once, and it is filled with ash from the fire, which comes out of the sock quite nice and shows us the direction of the wind. Not really necessary now, because I can feel the wind blowing towards us, but when the air is seemingly still, it's very useful. Those zebra will smell us, probably before they see us, but that's okay. Let's keep going. TB, oh, I've left my stick behind. That's a disaster. Stay there, David, I'm coming. Right, TB, oh look, there's a giraffe. That's very exciting. Now that giraffe's probably been watching me lie on the ground, most confused. And giraffe, actually, if you sit on the ground near enough to them, they will come and investigate what you want. Let's just walk in amongst those big trees there. We'll see how that reacts, and we'll see how the zebra react too. But TB, let me just get back to you. You want to know, if we run in the bush, will things chase you? No, highly unlikely that things will chase you. If you come across a predator, like a lion, especially a lion, and it is threatened by you, and it then reacts by charging towards you, if you then run away with it, you're behaving like it's prey, and then it might chase you. But if, for example, you were running along a road here and there was a leopard hiding behind a bush, unless it was an old or sick animal, it would probably just duck down and hide, or even slink away. So the act of running in the bush is dangerous only because you're not aware of what's going on around you. So you could come around a bush and run into a buffalo bull, or come around a bush and even run into an elephant by mistake. So in terms of running, yes, I don't think the chances of being chased by anything are very high at all. Watch here, Dave, sorry. The impala being chased towards us is a male chasing a female, straight towards us. This is wonderful. There's so much going on these clearings. And Monkey Man, you were wondering what's going on, what would happen if we saw a giraffe on foot. Giraffe are tremendously curious. So they will let us come quite close, and then they will come closer themselves. So that's one female being chased by a whole lot of rams. Now, of course, we're heading towards the dark phase of the moon in May, and that particular time of the year in the Kruger is when the impala will mate. I can hear more of them fighting now. You can maybe see the zebra through there. Here they come. Let's just move over here, Dave. Let's just get out into the open. So much to do out here, I don't know where to look. Oh. This herd of impala wants to go around and join the other one that was over there, I think. Gavin, you say it's a pretty cool stick that I have. It is a cool stick, Gavin, and you say, does it have a story? It does. It's not a very long story. It was found for me by my old friend Brent Leo Smith, who is lying recuperating from tick bite fever in the lamentable town of Johannesburg. He found it for me half out of kindness and half because his stick is so much bigger, and he wanted to indicate to me how much smaller my stick is than his because I am smaller than him. That said, it has survived now probably a good 8 months. And so while not a long story and not a particularly robust piece of timber, I do hope that it will last for some time. It's also good for bopping the cameraman on the head when he doesn't behave himself. Oh, there's the baby giraffe too. Everybody, let's just come over here and we'll see this little giraffe and its mum. There they are, and you can just see, this is perfect. The light is just breaking through the clouds now, and you can just see it catching them. 3 of them. And the third one is to the right, Darby. I'd say that little one is no more than maybe 6 weeks old. Still a little bit of the umbilical cord I can just see underneath its tail. And it's obviously got a very itchy neck, so it's scratching it on the marula tree. And I know you can't hear the ambient sound quite so well on these bushwalks, but I'm sure you can hear the doves calling above us. And you might just be able to hear the fairly strong southeasterly wind that's blowing through here. And Dave, while it blows through, I think just the post-apocalyptic sky will be a good one through these bushes. You can see the clouds moving quite fast. And I think this is the start of a new front coming in. We are now kind of heading towards winter. Although I'm sure for those of you living in the colder parts of the world, the description of this kind of weather as wintry must be laughable. Right, we're going to investigate a few more of the animals on this clearing. I don't think we're going to go anywhere from here anytime soon. Let's head across to Sam and get an update at what he's doing.
So, from spending some time with James looking at giraffe to getting back on vehicle with Sam and Wium to see if we can find these wild dogs. It's been a wild goose chase since we last saw you. We went down into the drainage line to see if we could pick up on any other tracks or the wild dogs themselves. We waited there for a couple of minutes to see if something would turn up, but nothing came, so we decided let's get active again, and we're now on the road. So we're just actually coming back to the same place where we found them. So we've now done a whole loop to see if we can relocate on these animals. Jamie's just ahead of us, so she might be down inside there looking for them. So Jamie is off the vehicle looking for those wild dogs to see if she can find them. Bryan's on the back. Hello, Bryan. How's it going, Bryan? Yeah, ready to find some wild dogs.
Hello, Yogi dog.
See you now, Bryan.
See you now,
So Jamie's gone down into that drainage line to see if she can pick up tracks or investigate anything. I think they would have moved quite quickly from there. Here comes Jamie. It's not a wild dog, it's Jamie. Did you find any Nkonzo?
Pardon?
Did you find any tracks?
Well, this is where I last saw them, so yes.
Yeah.
But I can't figure out where they've gone from there. Hello, everybody.
So
not quite as fast as a wild dog.
No, yeah, no. Do you reckon they might have headed quite quickly just east down the drainage line?
I think they've either gone up here or they've gone up along the Mawati on that side.
What do you think the best
There's
reason?
some very scared looking Inyala.
There is,
Yeah.
I just sat in the drainage line waiting for them. They didn't come through. So what I'm thinking, maybe go back down, either go back down Twin Dams and then cut up. But I know Mike's going up Battalier now to see if
Okay.
he can find
I'm going to go back along Central and just check Hyena Road or somewhere similar.
Okay, sweet. So you go that way, and I'll go back round Twin
All
Dams,
right.
chill.
Wild dogs chase, keeping us going, taking us on a mad run.
Good luck, Jamie. See if we can find anything. Deb wants to know, since the wild dog are endangered, and for any of you that don't know, that there's the second most endangered animal in Africa. The first is the simian wolf in Ethiopia, and then Deb would like to know what exactly would we do if we found a sick wild dog. So, you know, Deb, you know, there are rehabilitation programs in different places to help grow and develop wild dogs. But, you know, there's, of course, problems such as the two diseases, which is rabies. And rabies, you know, as you know, you can't really come back from that. So it's really difficult to get involved, you know, with any... If any rabies gets onto our property, we have to take them out and try and get it out of the system. So I know that there's a leopard that actually got, I think, contracted rabies from a dog that was on the property. I'm not sure on the story of that. But most of the time we won't get involved unless it's going to damage the ecology of the area, like rabies might do with all the wild dogs in the area. So the squirrel's getting angry, as you can see. That's a squirrel alarm call. There's two of them inside the tree, so they're making quite a alarm here or something. So it might just be something around here. What are they alarm calling? What are you alarm calling at, squirrel? Well, it's definitely not a wild dog because we would have seen the wild dog right in front of it. But look at that sunrise. Just as we look for those wild dogs, just have a quick look at that sunrise. Incredible. Look at all the rays coming out. I don't know if you can quite see it. It's a little bit too bright. There we go. So the sun has just crept out into the sky, and it's now going to help us see if we can find those tracks, all those wild dogs that could be anywhere along the drainage line next to us. Okay, so we're going to carry on looking to see if we can find these wild dogs. Let's see how James is doing with one of the tallest creatures on our planet.
I do hope very much that they manage to find those dogs, because they are, of course, quite possibly the most exciting thing in the wilderness. Watching those dogs on the hunt is my favourite thing out here. Not too far away from that is sitting in a clearing like this, possibly when the weather's slightly less inclement than it is now, and watching Giraffe come closer and closer. You can see they've moved. Well, they haven't come too much closer, but they're moving around, trying to find out what on earth I'm doing. The little one's not that interested, but the females have come a bit closer, and they keep turning around and looking and watching us. I think they're also interested in the magnificence of the sunrise today. Angel Lady, what an interesting question. It was been a topic of discussion amongst sort of amateur naturalists, if you like, for a long time, probably even professional ones. You say, are giraffes good mums? A giraffe are okay mums, but for a long time you'll read that they weren't very good. So what they do is they will leave their youngsters like that one, sort of at that age, 6 weeks to maybe 3 months, somewhere between there, and they'll go off and graze for a long time. Or not graze, they'll browse. And for a long time they thought, you know, that was just neglectful parenting. But in actual fact, we think that they communicate now with what we call infrasound. In fact, we know that they do. And infrasound is just sound waves at a too low frequency for us to be able to hear. And we're pretty sure that the giraffe mum stays within infrasonic communication with their youngsters. So because they're able to see so far, because they're so tall, obviously, I don't know what that's like, but they are able to see a great distance. I think they stay in visual and infrasonic contact with their youngsters, despite the fact that to those of us who are short of stature, and in this case that includes every human being, would sort of perceive it as them being separated and the mother unable to look at her youngster. They must be successful mothers. They must be good mothers, or the species would not have survived. Remember, for any species around here, from the smallest bacterium up to, well, the elephant, I suppose, with us at the other end of the sort of intelligence scale, for any species to have survived, there have been probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that have fallen by the wayside, A, because they were just not adapted to the environment, or there was some quirk of parenting that didn't work. So you can be pretty sure that any mammal that survives out here has got a parenting strategy that is actually, from an evolutionary point of view, extremely successful. Righty, let's go and have a look at this tree over here. As soon as those dogs are found, we will obviously cut across to them. Let me just cover up. There we go. Exposed myself slightly. The other day I was accused by a viewer of having something known as a bubble butt. So I'm now wearing my shirt. You can see over my bubble butt. There we go. It's not quite so obvious like that. Look over here, everyone. This has started to happen, especially on this clearing, and I don't know why. This is a kind of termite that is building a nest, or a mound almost, onto the top of the tree. And the trees that it is affecting out here are the terminalia trees, or the silver clusterleaf trees. Now, as far as I understand it, the heartwood of a terminalia tree is fairly termite resistant. I mean, that's, from what I've read, they were used for good fence poles and that sort of thing. And why they are being affected like this, on the, you know, there's even a marula tree that's being affected here. Why suddenly on this particular clearing this is happening more so than it is anywhere else, I don't really know, except to say that it is possible that because of the drought there has not been enough forage for the termites to eat outside of trying to eat the wood on this tree. But I don't know. So if let's just break away some here, Dave. Or in fact, we don't even need to do that. If you come over here, Dave, you can see how where the soil has been, just at the end of my stick there, the termites have eaten away the wood. Now I'm also confused as to what kind of termites these are, because there are a few of the trees that have a fungus growing termite mound underneath and they're easily identifiable. In fact, Dave, if we turn to your right, I'm pretty sure that the perpetrators of this great tree trauma come probably from that mound over there, under the ground. They pop to the surface over here and then they build themselves this really impressive kind of tunneling system up the tree, and they eat the wood from there. Now they do that for two reasons. They do it for protection, and they also do it because they lack melanin, most of the termites, and that means they'd obviously get burnt by the sun. They're a bit like vampires in that respect, I suppose. I don't suppose they sleep in coffins though, or that they're affected by garlic. I don't know why I said that or where it came from, but obviously it's been in my mind. Now I'm going to give David a very special treat here, because apparently, I've shown some of you. Oh, here we go, Dave, come here quickly. Here are the termites. There they are. They are fungus growers. You see they'll scuttle away down into the mound and try and stay away from the sun, because it does burn them. It won't burn them at this sort of angle, I suppose. But they will also be vulnerable to things like hornbills, which will want to come and eat them. Cool, there they are. Now I was just telling a story the other day that when we when I was teaching up in Phalaborwa, or north of Phalaborwa in a rural area there, I had some local people with me, very poor local people, and we were driving along one day in a game reserve. I'm just going to try and get these chaps back on to their mound. We were driving along in a game reserve one day, and we stopped next to a tree like this, and I was basically giving them the same explanation that I'm giving you, and I didn't notice. I sort of was talking away, and I turned around and I saw that the tree had basically been denuded of all of this mud, and that these people were eating the mud. I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, it's delicious. Why don't you try some?" Here you are, Dave. You have tried this before, and I know how much you enjoyed it the first time. And I was expecting it to taste something like an Oreo, basically. It tastes like sand.
Not quite sandy.
It really has got no taste other than sand. I'm not going to eat it all. It's not unpleasant, but it is soil. But what's interesting, it's not so much what it tastes like, but that it shows that, as with the animals out here, nutrients are readily available in soil. And many of the animals out here engage in what we call geophagia, or earth eating, and people are no different. Excuse me, 1 second. Obviously, people in this area, if you're very poor, you can't go to the chemist and buy yourself a supply of vitamins. You can't go and get fresh produce quite often. And so you supplement the diet with stuff like this, which I think is really interesting. Jamie is still looking for the wild dog. Let's head across and find out on her progress. We'll continue down this way.
Still on a slightly more sedate pursuit of these wild dogs, trying to figure out exactly where they've disappeared off to. Sounds as though James has been enjoying some breakfast, and I have a sneaky suspicion that the wild dogs are enjoying some breakfast as well somewhere here. It's just a question of where they've managed to catch something. That's why I think they disappeared as suddenly as they did. I think that they managed to catch probably in that block between Mbubu Road and Gallagher shortcut. So I'm just checking around the area, looking for any kind of sign of them coming out, any tracks. So far I haven't picked up on anything, and the soil's nice and dry, so it should be relatively easy to see. And just to let you know, we are aware that the sound may have changed. The sound that you're hearing, the way my voice is coming through, may have changed, and that's because due to some inexplicable forces last night, including one quite prolonged power failure, the batteries for our lapel mics didn't charge properly, and thus we have returned to the microphone in the front of the vehicle. So just to let you know, that's why my voice might not sound as clear as it did at the start of the morning safari. Right, let's try some guesses. Where do we think these wild dogs are? While we search, there is an animal who is the eyes and the ears of the bush, and that is a monkey, and it's one that Sam has found.
As Jamie Patterson was saying, that the monkey is the eyes, ears of the bush, we can see it here. The monkey is standing at the edge of this tree. There's a number of them in this tree. We've seen them for quite a few days in the same drainage line, and I feel very safe sitting in this area with them because they've got a huge vantage point over there to see if there's any wild dogs in the area. I've actually never been around a monkey when there are wild dogs, and I'm not actually sure if they're alarm call at a wild dog. I know they're alarm call at both, well, mainly at the leopard. So it's a huge trigger when you know that there's a monkey alarm call. But we're sitting here while these monkeys jump around in the drain, like right in the middle of the drainage line, and we're just hoping that they'll pop through. There's a number of stations that are driving all the way around this drainage line. I think the best bet is just to sit in the middle of it at the moment for now and watch these monkeys climb such great heights. I think I've seen them 3 days in a row now. in this drainage line. They've provided much entertainment for us all. There they go. Jumping up and down this tree. The vervet monkey. Another animal very similar to that of a monkey is the baboon. Not similar in the sense of appearances, but they're the only other sort of monkey-like animal out here in the bush that we can see. I haven't seen the baboons since I've been here, so I would be very, very excited to see if we can see a baboon at some stage. For the moment, just have a look down this drainage line. So just looking down this drainage line, this is where we are. This is where we're going to wait for a couple more seconds. If nothing runs out because everything's scared of a wild dog, we're going to head in the direction of where they were again and actually go a little bit further to the north of us to find tracks. Let's go and see what the zebra is doing this morning.
There is great consternation in the world of the Burchell's zebra here. They're fighting with each other. This is not uncommon, especially, it seems like quite a large group, and I wonder if there aren't a couple of young colts there, yearlings about to sort of go into a bachelor herd. It might actually be a small bachelor herd that sort of attached itself to a kinship group of a stallion and his mares. And they're having a bit of ardry-bardry, as they say. Well, they probably don't say that anymore, but they used to. And they are well known the world over by anybody who's ever kept an animal for being particularly nasty to each other and to other species. And there's some incredible footage around of them killing both their own young and the young of others. I've seen amazing footage of them killing a wildebeest calf that was bleating for its mother, and probably, I suppose, as a response to the fact that the bleating calf was attracting predators. But we've also had an amazing time here. Wium and I were on foot about, when was it? It was in last winter, just as we were coming out of winter, and there was a very young zebra foal. Let's move so we can see them again. There was a very young zebra foal, and the zebra foal was kind of trying to find, it was lost, it was trying to find its mother. I'm just going to get up onto the termite mound here. There's great dust going on there, they're having a big fight. And a stallion came up to this foal and basically kicked it to death, broke its leg, kicked it in the head, and it was dreadful. Dave, you should be okay up here. I'll give you a hand up to the top. Let me just check if we can see anything from here. We cannot. They seem to have absconded off into the woodland. We'll just go a little bit through here. You can see the dust that's been raised there. And that's because they're having a big fight. And they've gone running through the Impala herd. Let's just do a little turn through here. And then we're going to go back down there. The giraffe seemed to be looking at something, slightly alarmed. There's a sort of dip and then a clearing off to the other side then. They seem to be looking over there. We're not alone out here. Stefan Winterboer, the mystic boer, when he's not actually performing, is just checking that out. So let's quickly check out the zebra and then we'll go and join him and see what he's finding. It's turning into a rather magnificent morning. It was a bit chillsome as we came out to start with, but now the African sun is on our faces, which of course is the greatest feeling in the world. And if you ever are able to come out here, just savor the first time the African sun touches your face. Anna-Marie, I'm dreadfully sorry to have ruined your notion of the African zebra by telling you that they have a nasty disposition. Yes, I'm afraid they do. We'll just have a quick, there's a termite mound here that we can climb up, and we'll have a look there, and then we'll go back towards the other side. Just quickly, while we're walking along here, notice how when we, if you've been watching a long time, you'll know that the last time we did a bushwalk through here, sort of at the beginning of the wet season, this was clearing. There was none of these saplings occurring. Black monkey thorns here, this is a black monkey thorn here. Very kind of vicious, wiry plant. And none of these silver cluster leaves, whose parents are all, well, one of whose parents, of course, was being eaten by those termites there. And it's a function, it's an interesting thing, because during a drought, this is exactly what happens. The bush thickens. It doesn't get thinner, because the grass seeds don't germinate, and so these seedlings of the trees, which put down that deep taproot, they survive much more readily. And so you get this thickening of the bush, which is not always good for game viewing. No, they've all gone off into the woodland there, fighting with each other. Let us hope they find peace. Yeah. All right, let's head back to Sam for an update. We're going to head back across to Steph and we'll see what he's managed to find us over there.
So we've just come across quite a few kudu that are next to us. There they go. Beautiful, look at that male. Still quite a young male by the looks of the horns. There's some females right behind him. Some oxpeckers that are jumping around her back. So these animals are looking extremely relaxed, which means that the wild dogs aren't anywhere close to this area, so we need to leave this area, unfortunately, just so that we can see if we can find those wild dogs, because we don't want to be seeing relaxed animals when we're looking for wild dogs. As soon as we see an unrelaxed animal, we see some animal sprinting in a direction, scared out of its life to see if it can get away. That's going to tell us where those wild dogs are. So we've now circled this area 3 times to look for any animals that are sprinting out, but there's so many options that they could have taken. They could have taken the option, let's sit and sleep inside the drainage line. Let's go that way and catch something. So it's all about kind of a little bit of guesswork, see if you can find these wild dogs, and a little bit of listening out to anything that you can see or hear. And we've just confirmed that this area is very relaxed, so we're going to head down towards Gowrie Cut Line and see what we can find. Just on that quickly, have a look at my elephant over here. There's a moth, what looks like a little moth, that is camouflaged on my elephant, which is quite cool. Catching a ride with the Ellie is now no longer a one-man pack. Ooh, Jamie's also got an insect on her vehicle. Let's go and have a see what that is.
I have one of my favorite insects to actually see out here. There's a whole load of different types, but they're all equally beautiful in their own way, and with this wonderful camera we can get really up close and personal with this particular dotted felt antlion. And this is the adult form. Fascinating creatures. The larvae live in pitted sort of holes in the sand where they have these large mandibles, and I'll show you a picture in a moment. I just want you to be able to have a good look at this guy. They live out their lives catching ants that slide in. The adults, on the other hand, have a very, very short lifespan. For some species, it can be only 24 hours that they spend in their adult form. They only have the briefest moment in which they fly, find a mate, lay their eggs, and reproduce. You can see how windy the day is. It's actually blowing the wings across. But if I get it at the right angle, you can really see the sheen of this particular individual's wings. And he or she arrived and has been on the game drive with us the entire time. Obviously wanted to see wild dogs for its last few moments of its life. Look at those incredible eyes. Inside there will be a complex selection of compound eyes, and then the antenna stretching away from the head. Or I'm going to try to shelter him a little bit from the wind. It can't be terribly comfortable having the wings blow all over the place. And in a moment, once I've put this guy down, I'm going to leave him in the car. It seems to be where he wants to stay. I'll be able to show you a picture of the different members of the antlion family. And Red, absolutely, it does look like a dragonfly. They look very, very similar. The wing shape is incredibly similar. Those long, slender wings stretching right down and past the thorax, past the body. And just like a dragonfly, 2 sets of wings. One at the top part of the body and one at the bottom. And in this case, a beautiful, you can't see it terribly clearly, but a beautiful striking black and yellow body. You can see it on the legs and the face. And of course, all of this fur around it. Now, for most of the antlion adults, they do not need to feed. That's because their lifespan is so incredibly short, or this part of their life cycle is so incredibly short, so they don't need to eat anything. They basically just come out, emerge as adults, mate, and then lay eggs and die. They are truly beautiful. I'm going to show you a picture now. And it's a bizarre thing, the transition, and we know, of course, insects being famous, all arthropods, or a lot of the arthropods being famous for their metamorphosis of their life cycle. I'm just going to, yeah, you can go on the microphone. Here you go, since it's not working. Come on. On you go. It's all right. Yeah. You can go on the game drive with us for the last few moments, since it doesn't seem to want to disappear off anywhere. When I find a nice appropriate place, then I'll stop and release it. This is one insect that undergoes a particularly spectacular metamorphosis. If you have a look there, that is what an antlion larvae looks like. Of pretty much all of the species, not terribly attractive. You can see those enormous mandibles that I was talking about, the jaws, to capture and crush unsuspecting ants that have sort of disappeared into the conical pits that they dig. And then you've got this wide range of different antlion adults. Now, we were looking at the dotted felt antlion. I think that I did say that, didn't I? I didn't say mottled. This is the dotted felt antlion. That's the one that we saw. There's also the mottled felt antlion, which is very, very similar, but you can see how slightly different the spots are around the wings. Both of them are found here, both very, very similar. And there's just this wide variety of different antlion species. All equally beautiful and all looking very, very similar to dragonflies, although dragonflies, of course, resting with their wings open. Much like the difference between moths and butterflies. Moths rest with their wings open, butterflies have their wings closed. Dragonflies rest with their wings open, and damselflies close them, just like the antlion adults. We have returned once again to the road that I have spent most of my morning on, in the sort of vague hope that somehow if I think hard enough about them, the wild dogs are just going to dash across the road in front of me. Unfortunately, my wild dog good luck hasn't charmed them into existence just yet. I'm still trying to figure out. We've decided, Bryan and myself have decided that they flew. They grew wings and they flew. Yep. Because wherever they are, they haven't left any footprints, they haven't left any track marks, they have just vanished. So we'll take our antlion adult and we'll go on a bit of a journey. I feel as though he might need a name now since he's become a passenger. What does the thumb think his name should be, Bryan?
Who knows?
Who knows? Andy the antlion.
Oh, there we go.
Just throw in some casual alliteration. Andy the antlion it is. Let's see if we can't find Andy and all of you, the wild dogs, again. Look, and the other thing I'm sure many, or some of you may not have forgotten about the fact that there was a lioness in this vicinity as well. Now, one lone lioness is still absolutely a match for a pack of wild dogs. However, particularly if she's pregnant, she might have decided that it's really not worth the effort of sticking around. So we still don't even know which way she disappeared off to. Now that's very interesting. So it wasn't just one lioness, it was 4 of them. Now that changes the game a little bit. Lions being one of the sort of most dominant threats to a wild dog pack. I wonder which way both of our top predators have disappeared. I mean, wild dogs, in terms of a predator hierarchy, the lions of course come out on top every time. They're way bigger than any of the other predators, much stronger, and of course being social cats, they have that additional advantage. Wild dogs, however, come quite far up the predator hierarchy. Ooh. The wind is howling in the Sabi Sands this morning and dropping the temperature right down again. Let's go and figure out where these lionesses have disappeared off to, and let's find out what James is up to.
Dogs. Well, we've come to a very common sight in Africa, of course, that of Macrotermes natalensis, an old mound, this one probably containing, I'd say, more than 1 million termites, many of which are over here, closing up this sort of exposed chimney, which would have provided them with air conditioning during the hot months of summer, and now is providing them with a sort of opening for the cold air, and so they're probably closing it up. Now, what I'm going to do is put the microphone down in there and let's see if you can hear anything. You might not, but you might. If you do this slowly enough, they don't normally react. But if you come in quickly, they start rattling in terror. Now my face, I don't know if you, Kirsten, can you hear anything there? No, nothing. Okay, they're silent workers today, they're not singing. But what I would like you to do is imagine the last time that you steamed your face when you had a cold or something like that, and you put your face over this mound, and this sort of jet of warm, delicious smelling earthy air, very wet or moist, covers your face, and it is remarkable. Then the other thing to look at now, David, watch me baby finger here. That there is a major termite soldier. Can you see him, Dave? He's got a very large head and a formidable pair of pincers. I do not want to be bitten by him. The other one, I will take the hit. That's a minor soldier. The minor soldier's got me now, but the major soldier will draw deep blood from my finger. This chap has drawn some blood. Look, Dave, I'm injured. I've taken a great risk. Can you see that?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah, it's a gaping wound on my hand. But the big one, with his nasty pincers, I would be very reticent to stick my fingers in his jaws. Anyway, that other soldier has now done his job for the day. He's fallen down into the mound for a nice meal. Now, Natasha, you ask a very commonly asked and almost impossible to answer question. You want to know how long a mound like this will take to be built. Well, let me just first show you the extent of it. So Dave, you can stay there. I'll walk around the mound. So Natasha, I'm currently walking around the extent of this termite mound. Bearing in mind that as you can see me now, you see on the tree here, there is a whole lot of mound there. So the termites are extending that far. Still walking around it. There's another tree that I'm going past now that is covered. Still walking around it. Here's a jackalberry tree that they seem to have avoided. And so that's the extent of this mound. It's the proverbial tip of the iceberg story here, where most of the mound is actually underneath the ground. So that's how big it is, and it's probably about, I mean, I think that this will go down 30 meters maybe, 30 meters, 90 feet, 100 feet to the water table. Am I okay here with the sun? Yeah. And to say how long it took to build is almost impossible, because we don't know if it has been continuously occupied for the length of the duration of its existence, or if it hasn't. And I'll tell you why I don't think it has, is that if you look at it, it shows signs that it has eroded. So water has come onto this thing and eroded bits of it away during the course of its existence. And that would normally only happen if the queen had died out and had become dormant, and then other termites had come into it. I think you will find that there are probably in excess of 2 million termites in this mound, but I really am not sure quite how many there are. And it's almost impossible to say. Okay, we're going to head off continuously. We've basically gone the opposite direction from what my plan was this morning, and that's because those giraffe were looking at something over off to the west. So we're going to carry on going off to the west, and you're going to go and look at some more giraffe with Jamie.
Seems to be a giraffe-themed morning, the way that it's turned out. Just have a look at this incredibly handsome gentleman, who is staring intently at us out of his left eye. Hello, boy. A giraffe bull in his absolute prime. And it's the first giraffe that I've seen since I've been back on Djuma. And they always give the impression of being such strange-looking animals. The longer you look at them, the more curious they become. These incredibly long limbs. Leopard has asked a question that I've never actually thought about, and that is whether or not on particularly windy days, as this morning is proven to be, whether or not a giraffe ever gets seasick. Let's try and catch up with him quickly. But whether giraffe gets seasick with their necks sort of swaying backwards and forwards in the wind. Now, I've certainly never thought about it, and I think that their necks are so heavy and muscular that there's probably very little movement backwards and forwards, but it's an interesting idea. It sort of ties in with the question of whether or not there are ever any giraffe that are scared of heights. Because it must be absolutely terrible to be a giraffe with vertigo, or something similar, or a natural fear of heights. Presumably not physically possible. Those long, long limbs, incredibly powerful legs, are used for kicking, and that tail acting as a fly swatter. You can see what I mean when I said he is a giraffe bull in his prime, that dark, rich, dark colour that only really the male giraffe acquire as they reach the mature stages of their life. And they actually, when they get to this sort of age, they start to acquire a certain smell to them as well. It's actually quite a smelly. They're known as stink bulls, because the odour is quite similar to a feces type scent. Apparently what the female giraffes find incredibly attractive. You see how prominent that bone is at the top of his skull. Now that serves a very similar purpose to the ossicones, or the horns on the top of his head. And the older a giraffe gets, the larger that bone grows, and essentially is a weapon to be utilized in the same way as those horns that have been rubbed smooth by constant impact fighting with other giraffe. And if you look really carefully, you'll be able to see the two lumps behind those ossicones as well, at the base of his skull. A giraffe's head is essentially, a male giraffe's head is essentially designed to be a battering ram of maximum impact. Incredibly powerful. Just imagine that skull weighing, I would guess, in the region of somewhere 20 kilograms odd, with all of the muscle and the flesh and the bone. That might be slightly too much. Pretty close though. So 40 odd pounds on the end of a 2-meter neck, swinging round with great force, and you can just imagine the amount of momentum that it can gather to be used as a weapon. Male giraffe fight by necking each other, so swinging the head round and bashing a rival's side or buttocks or legs with their heads. Hard to imagine now, where he's looking perfectly peaceful and tranquil in the morning light, just swishing his tail every now and again to dislodge the flies. I've just heard something on the Game Drive channel. Orbs, confirm those are Ngalo and Konzo.
Negative, Jamie,
Copy that, thank you. Aubrey was just reporting tracks of a male leopard wandering around Buffelshoek, so the property to the north of our Traverse area. I just wanted to check with him that they weren't the Nkuhuma lionesses wandering through. Now, it's hard to picture just how complex a giraffe's anatomy truly is. There's long extended bones reaching back to what is in essence what you're looking at there is the ankle, and the knee moving further up towards the joint with the hip. Very strangely designed, totally unique. And of course each giraffe having a complex and unique spot pattern all of their own, just like our leopards and our cheetah do, and our spotted hyena. Giraffe are exactly the same. Hello, boy. I was calling you handsome. No need to take offense. Wasn't being insulting. Promise. Got a little bit of skin disease on the base of his neck there. He's decided he wants to play shy. And in general, giraffe, quiet and tranquil creatures. And yes, Megan, in Ottawa, you are absolutely right. Giraffe do not really have a call that we can hear. There's a lot of research that's only recently come to light about the fact that there's sort of infrasonic sound that they are capable of producing to communicate with each other. I have heard giraffe make an almost grunting, sighing sound, but they don't generally make much of a noise. Now, it was interesting the way that he looked at us there. Obviously the wind swirled a little bit and he got hold either of our scent or of the lions in the area, because he reacted almost immediately by moving out of our view. It's for a giraffe bull like this. I mentioned that he's in his prime, albeit very hidden at the moment. Let's just go forward a little bit. Now, for the most part, tranquil, peaceful creatures, but it is not unheard of. It's very unusual, but it's not unheard of, especially for giraffe that have been raised in close proximity to human beings. It's not unheard of for a male giraffe to actually charge a vehicle. It's very, very unusual, but it has occasionally happened, and I know of people who have been chased by a giraffe, which must be, when you think about it, actually quite a terrifying experience. We view them, of course, perfectly safely, with no threat to us whatsoever, but imagine this 5-meter animal, 15 odd feet of giraffe sprinting towards you at high speed. with flailing limbs. You can imagine just how terrifying an experience a giraffe charge might actually be as he disappears into the drainage line. It's never happened to me. The only time I've ever been chased by a giraffe was a baby that was 4 months old, which is actually in itself fairly scary. It was hand raised and therefore had absolutely no fear of humans whatsoever. As he wanders off into the drainage line, I'm going to go search for those lines. Let's find out what James is busy doing on quarantine.
Look at this tiny little spider here living in a tuft or in the inflorescence of Panicum maximum, the Guinea grass, one of Africa's premier grazing grasses. And just see how even this tiny little grass inflorescence has become a home, and the grass plant itself an entire little ecosystem on its own. I just think it's absolutely amazing. I'd love to claim credit for finding it, but our security detail, the Mystic Boer, managed to find the spider. Incredible eye for detail that he has out here in the bush. We don't know what it is. Steph said something about it being a bushveld sack spider, but I think very difficult to identify. But look at the little web that it is intricately woven for itself, and it's bent the inflorescence round into the shape that it wants it to be, and it's the perfect little home for a spider specifically adapted to living in this little environment that it has found itself in. Obviously not great migrators, these little spiders. So that's this little spider, and in terms of being adapted for your environment, I just want to have a look at this tree behind us. And what got me thinking was that yesterday, or not yesterday, a few days ago, I was asked a question about whether or not, or why it is that elephants destroy trees. So we look at this tree here. This is a marula tree. This marula tree is almost certainly going to die as a result of being ring-barked by elephants. And someone said to me the other day, they said, why is it that an elephant will do this? Surely they're intelligent creatures. Are they not intelligent enough to know that they are destroying a food source for themselves? And I said, I don't know. But it struck me that perhaps they only do this to the male tree, because only the female tree produces fruit. And it is the fruit source, of course, that is the most important part of marula life for an elephant. So they do eat a little bit of the bark. You can see they obviously ate the bark of this tree. And they do sometimes eat the leaves, but the leaves are not a major source of food for them. So I decided to find out if this was a male tree or not. Now, you can tell, apparently, by looking at the ends of the leaves and where they kind of, if you look up here, Dave, if you look at where the leaves here attach to the edge of the twigs, that apparently is a way of telling if it's male or not. The males have more the tufted leaves at the end of the twigs. This I believe to be a male tree, not because of that, but because underneath it there are no seeds. So if this was a female tree, there would be seeds all over the place, little marula seeds that look like aliens, like they're sort of cone-headed aliens that you find, well, that you don't find, apparently have been found. They look like that, and there are none underneath this tree. So I suspect that they have taken to this tree, and I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a conscious thing, but I think they've eaten the bark off this tree, possibly knowing that it would damage the tree, but also knowing that this is not a tree from which they get fruit. So this is quite an interesting thing, that. But I mean, it's sad that this tree will almost certainly die, and as we have this drought, as the drought progresses, if we don't get further rain, and I think it's highly unlikely now that we're into May, we're pretty much into the winter now, we're into the dry season, I think more and more of this is going to happen, and a drought will change the structure of the vegetation entirely. That's not a bad thing, but for the human being, it's a difficult thing. And if we look around us here, if you look around, you can see how comforting. I don't know if this makes you feel comforted. It makes me feel comforted. If you look around us here, this whole landscape feels comforting. And if you look down through there, through that section there with those tall trees, it's something that I find it deeply appealing. And what it's called is parkland. And parkland is an area where you've got sort of open areas underneath and you've got tall trees, and there's a deep part of the human psyche that longs after this. This is why our city parks look like this. The human psyche, we think, longs after this parkland kind of arrangement of vegetation, because it harks back to our prehistory when we came out of the forests where the chimpanzees live and onto the plains. This is ideal for spotting if a predator's coming to get you. There's a giraffe. There's a giraffe there, Dave. Let's go over here. There she is. It's ideal for spotting animals coming to get you, and also you can climb into the trees if you're in danger. So that's why parkland, this kind of open understory and tall overstory, makes us feel comfortable. It's why our city parks are the way they are. And so when we see big trees like this marula being destroyed, it makes us feel uncomfortable. It makes us feel, well, that's not good because the big tree's dying. But in the greater scheme of this enormous ecosystem, it is probably almost meaningless. This tree will become a home for other animals. Many things will eat it when it falls over. Funguses, termites, other insects, various things will thrive off the fact that the elephants have killed this tree. Okay, let's go across to, I think, Sam at the moment, find out what he's doing. Still no dogs, I'm afraid, but maybe we'll be lucky later on in the morning.
Still no wild dogs. We've been searching this property, going round and round, looking for any tracks that we might find. They are certainly not an easy animal to find after you just find them. We spotted them and we were with them for probably just 2 minutes. And 2 minutes they were gone, straight into that drainage line, into that thick thicket there. So we're going to do our best to find them again. I'm not giving up. The thing is, they can just go in any direction. And you just gotta hope that you're making the right decisions. We've circled the lap, circled the area at least 2 to 3 times to see if we could find anything, and then we went all the way to our other cut line to see if they, where they were coming from. So they're not there. We didn't see any tracks over there. So I think our best bet now is to go down towards our second road, which is Nyal Road South, and carry on down to the drainage line and just follow the drainage line until we get to our other cut line to see if any tracks crossed over, and then work our way back in. So that's where the mines are at the moment. Myself and Wium doing our best to do what we can out here. There's a bird just up there. What is that? It's like a batelier from here. No, it's not a batelier, most definitely not. Let me just get the binoculars out. Oh, could have been it's quite large. Quite a big wingspan. Watch it fly in the sky. What is the noticeable things we can see in it? Could be a vulture. That was a vulture, actually. It's right above us now. It is a vulture. What are you looking for? What is circling right around us? Are you looking for us? Actually, right above us. Interesting. Just floating right above us. This is amazing. So you can't quite see it right now. It's literally on top of my head. There it is. It's not the easiest thing to film when it's literally on top of your head like that. Let's just see where it ends up going, because that'll also tell us a few things. But wow, don't they have a magnificent way of flying? I just headed off into that thicket. Well, that was really cool. No, there he goes. He's still going. He's going to be picking up on the thermals and going to much higher altitudes to see if we can find any carrion or carcasses or something to scavenge on. So I'm just interested to see what direction you might be going in, because that could tell us a lot about where those wild dogs are. As I said, there are signs out there that'll teach us a lot about what's going on. So it's heading in that direction, towards Buffalo's Hook. All right, that was an amazing little encounter. How was that to film there, Wium? It was on top of your head. All right, let's go find the wild dogs. You know, what's sort of fun about tracking wild dogs is that you most of the time, you know, you're looking for the wild dogs because you know they're on the property, but you can't, you know, spend your whole life looking for them. You kind of got to wait for them to find you as well. So that's the road we've just been coming up and down on. I'm pretty sure they're not down there. So let's just drive. If we see a couple beautiful animals, let's have a look at them. And if we see something running in the distance or we find some tracks, then we have our best chance of finding those painted wolves. I think there might be something exciting for you to have a look at, though.
What an awesome morning. Oh, we better stay with her. I'm not even sure which leopard this is, but what a great way to continue on with our morning. Oh, I've just had all the luck since I got back. Where are you going, girl?
You said you will go towards the other plane side, or you will just go...
I'm not sure which leopard it is. It's a female. My initial suspicion was that it was Shadow, but I don't think so. Let's get a little bit closer. Let's try and get a good view of her face. You can hear the squirrels chirp, 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 in response to the presence of a leopard in their midst. We are very close to... Oh? What on earth? It's a civet. It's a civet. There was just a sudden growling sound as she scared a civet out of the background. Oh, sorry guys. It happened so fast. She scared a civet out of its hiding spot, where it was obviously sleeping in the morning. Dashing off.
Tracks female lion heading a easterly direction. Tracks are on the junction.
She was actually trying to hunt it. I think she's terribly unimpressed that she's missed it. Not unheard of for a leopard. There she's having a good sniff of the area. It's not unheard of for a leopard to catch and kill a civet. Hello, girl. Still hiding her face from us. Now we are very close to Sandy Patch Road, so this is the boundary of Karula and Shadow's territory. Just a very brief glimpse of her face there. I'm still not sure which leopard this is. Those of you watching on your screens, you can maybe tell me. She's having a good sniff around where the civet was. It was just a sudden growling sound as it exploded. And I'll show, for those of you who are unfamiliar, I'll show you a picture of what a civet looks like when she settles down. If she settles down, she's very much on the move. Give her a bit of space. Oh, who is this? Those leopard experts out there? She's not a leopard, I know. I think it's this other female that we've been seeing, Kwatile's older daughter, Tsakani. How exciting, it's a new leopard for me. That's why she's not as comfortable with the vehicle as Shadow or Karula might be. She's much taller than both of them. In fact, she almost had me thinking she was a young male at first. As I said, I'm going to give her some space. She's following up on where that civet disappeared off to. Yay, a new leopard for me, and for many of you as well. Tsukani, I might be saying it wrong. As I said, she's a new leopard for me. She's in a very difficult block. Just going to stop for a moment, let her walk some more. Interesting how she's moved into this top corner from Simbombili into Juma and into the sort of the no man's land. Oh, some saliva flowing there. Her mouth perhaps watering at the prospect of civet for breakfast, although the civet has long gone. Is there anything more spectacular than a leopard moving through the dappled morning sunlight in the leaves? Better try and stay with her. This block is very, very dense. There's a chance we could lose her in here. I'm hoping she's going to go towards Aubrey's Road, maybe make our lives a little bit easier. Big stump. You okay there, Bryan? Watch the log. Sorry about the noise, everyone. Difficult route possible. Oh, lost an earpiece. There she goes. While we get through here, I'm going to send you over to Sam, who is one of the more unusual vulture species.
Ring around his neck.
So we've just seen another vulture here, and it looks like it's the leopard-faced vulture. So you can't really pick it up from here. And I can see it in my binoculars, that red face. I think you can see that red face from there. But it's one of the, I think it's a new bird to our bird list, and it's the largest vulture that we have. It's the first time I've seen the leopard-faced vulture. It's huge. Look at the size of that vulture. And its wingspan gets up to 2.7 meters. It's incredible. Aren't we lucky to be sitting with a leopard-faced vulture? So we've seen two vultures this morning. I think the earlier was the white-headed vulture that was flying above us. But do you know what? What's interesting is that we've just found tracks as well of a female lion who's heading up this road. So with this vulture being right here, I just want to quickly show you the tracks before we link back and see what Jamie's up to. So the tracks are here somewhere. We've got a female lion. I'll show it to you when you're back now. For now, let's just go and see how Jamie's doing with the beautiful female leopard.
Okay, also from Aubrey's Road, I'm making a break here.
She's very kindly decided to stop for now. Isn't she absolutely beautiful? As beautiful as her mother. Quintile probably was one of the most stunning leopards I have ever seen, and her daughter seems to have inherited those genes. Much taller than the Karula Shadow Tundi bloodline. Unfortunately, girl, I think you missed out on your civet. So kindly decided to stop.
Jamie, I'm coming south along Aubrey's Road from the
Just bear with me 1 second and enjoy this view of this beautiful leopard. I just need to chat to the guys on the radio. Okay, copy. I don't think we're too far from Aubrey's Road Junction. And she's not too far north from the access road either. She's still static, but I think best approach is from Aubrey's Road. As soon as she gets mobile, I'll let you know. Mafazi. It's not Shadow or Karula, I think Tsakani. And she is very kindly decided to settle because this block is getting very dense. So we've got the perfect opportunity to enjoy her for the moment. Negative, I don't think you'll get my visual from the road, but I'll listen for your audio.
Okay, so thanks, Jimmy. Just pause that music for
Copy that. Keep coming south towards Access Road. I should hear you. Taking the opportunity. Oh, look at that. Got the most incredible eyes. Totally different face. So thank you to James and Crystal for confirming that it is Tsukani. First time I've ever seen her. I've heard stories. Apparently she's known for the incredible amount of white she has at the end of her tail. Tack, stop. I just had your visual, if that was you coming down Aubrey's.
Yeah, positive.
Come back a little bit to the north. I saw you 2 seconds ago, and then come west from there into the block. You might be able to see me very soon.
Okay, confirm must come west.
That's affirmative. Keep coming. I'll tell you when to come west. Sorry everybody, just getting into a very difficult sighting. While we do that, let's head across to Jane's and some flowers. Okay.
Just quickly, everybody, while you've got that wonderful cat here, we've got a fly, obviously, and in front of the fly is the most amazingly camouflaged mantis that Steph found. And I mean, a mantis is an entire order of insects, so I mean, it could, I don't know what species it is, I've got no idea, but I suspect quite strongly that it has evolved to live only on the Senna Petitiana flower. It is perfectly camouflaged to the specific flower. Isn't it amazing? You might not even be able to see it. Dave, how's your picture there?
Center frame.
Center frame. You'll just see probably the glistening of the light off the antenna. Yep. And you can see the eyes. The triangular face, and it's been scuttling around on this particular flower, trying to get away from us. It's unbelievable how aware it is of where we are. Isn't that brilliant? It'll be hunting little insects and things that come to try and pollinate the flower. Everything, like I said earlier, is a little ecosystem. All right, as it bobbles around in the wind there, let's head back across to Jamie and her leopard.
Here we go. Still with this beautiful female. I'm not even sure how old she is, to be completely honest. She must be, I would guess that if I had to look at her, 2.5 maybe. That's just a total guess. Leopard that I'm unfamiliar with. I cannot describe it, but there's always something so exciting. We love to see the leopards that we know and love, but there's always an extra level of excitement in seeing a leopard that is new to us. And I'm hoping at some point we might get to see the fluffy white tip to the tail that she has. At some point we may need to reposition just because visual in this block is really, really tricky. And Taxon has arrived. And bringing his guests in to have a look, so we will make some space for them and allow them to see. It is, as we've noticed, a very, very tricky block. I'll move for you now. What we're going to try and do in a moment so that Taxon can take our place is we're actually going to go back and around and have a look at her from a different angle. Before we do, Sherry in California, you're wondering about who gives the leopards their names. And there's a couple of different processes. So the typical tradition of the Sabi Sands was that the naming rights of new cubs given to them at about a year old, when they are past that highest level of mortality for leopard cubs, the tradition is that it is either the person who has found the cubs first, or if the sort of the highest ranking guide or ranger is given that privilege and sort of taken in turns in terms of seniority. That method has recently changed, and it's now become something of a more democratic process. In other words, each lodge or each sort of interested party, so beautiful, each interested party is given the opportunity to put forward 2 names that are then voted for amongst a group. Look at that beautiful white fur. I think that she is going to get up in a moment. There are other vehicles coming to join us, so we are going to reposition ever so slightly. We're going to try and see if we can't get a view from the other side of her. As I said, not as relaxed as Shadow or Karula. Interesting how each leopard has their own distinct personalities, because she's had exactly the same upbringing. How's your view there, Bryan? Okay, let's try go around. Sorry, I'm having a quiet chuckle to myself here. Positive Squirrel, a viewer's username that I haven't heard before. Ah, this tree is just in the wrong place. Guys, we're gonna have to just make do with this view for now. Let me go forward a little bit for Bryan. No, that's not going to do at all. A bit further forward. No. Touch more. No. Oh dear. We're going to struggle a little bit here to find you a nice view. Just bear with me for a second. Positive Squirrel. Oh, there we go. We might have a... Oh, she's going to get up. Let's just stop for the moment. She's going to... I just want to see which way she's going to move. Oh, into the thickest possible patch. And back towards the access road. And we're going to stick with her. And while we try and do that, I'll try and answer Positive Squirrel's question about whether or not leopards' noses turn darker with age, like lions do. So it's an interesting thing. Generally, lions' noses turn darker with age, but not always an indication of an older lion. And I have seen old lions with pink noses before, so it's a general rule rather than an absolute. With leopards, there's no such correlation. So with leopards, they can have pink noses right up until the point of being 18 years old, and very, very old for a leopard. Sorry, there's a big hole here. I'm going to try, rather than trying to bash through here, I'm going to try and make my way back onto the road and view her from there. Just because it's going to be much easier that way. And I think she's heading in that general direction. While we squeeze through, let's go back to Sam for an update on his side.
So we have just got out the vehicle, myself and Wium, to go where that leopard-faced vulture was, which flew away as we got close to it, and it was huge. It was massive. It was amazing to watch something that big flying away from us. And we just went to go look into the block there to see if we could find that female lion. And she wasn't there. We checked the other side, so we've checked both sides for the female lion. And now we're basically just driving up the road to see if her tracks will come up somewhere back on this road. So it was interesting. We were driving through there and we just thought maybe this is the female lioness that is pregnant. So she could have revved us quite a lot if we saw her. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't her. But she's on her own. And last time I saw the pregnant female, she was on her own. But there are tracks coming down. So she obviously went down, and when everyone saw that lioness by the Juma, on the Juma cam, it must have been when she came down and drank, and then the tracks now lead off in this direction. So we very well might just bump into it. Just gonna see. So here are tracks, eh? Tracks are heading down. So that means that she could potentially be going up. Let's see if we could find her again. And in this now, look for a lioness, we could bump back into those wild dogs, because it isn't far from the area where we last saw the wild dogs. So we're looking for both of them now. There's no tracks on that side. Okay, let's go back to Jamie and have a good look at the leopard while we see if we can locate on the lioness.
Alright, copy that, Jamie. I'm still a while away.
Bryan doing an amazing job of figuring out exactly where this leopard is. I can't even see her. She seems to have gone a little bit further forward. Aubrey's telling me to go. Thanks, Orbs. Here she comes. Let's move up for them. So that Aubrey's guests can have a view as well as she crosses the road. Oh, she is so beautiful in that morning light. She's got that golden color that her mother had. You can really see the size difference, and I'll explain it to you. I'll actually show you when she does finally disappear. I will show you exactly what I mean in terms of the different scales. Now this block is almost impossible unless she decides to settle on this termite mound. And Safari Dean has suggested she is like the Scarlett Johansson of leopards. I think that is a relatively good description. She's settled there. Forward and forward. I'm just going to try to see if I can go. There she goes. For Aubrey and Taxon to join us. Now, in the way that she's moving, she's very clearly, purposefully on her way somewhere. So once she does start moving into the really dense vegetation, this time, we're probably going to leave her and let her be. As I said earlier, she's not quite as relaxed as Karula or Shadow, in terms of the presence of the vehicle, and definitely not nearly as relaxed as Tingana. Just by the way, this is where I last saw Tingana. He was resting up here when he was still limping a little bit. I'm hoping she's going to, yes, have a good sniff around here. This is where I last saw Tingana after he was mating with Tundi, and there's Fleming grimacing. He's probably come through this area and scent marked. Is she going to scent mark on top of his markings? So that upward, almost snarl that she just showed us is known as a Fleming grimace. And it's her taking in the scent of whatever's here. This is probably one of Tingana's regular rest stops. She might even Fleming grimace again for us. You can see she's intently sniffing all along the underside of that branch as well. Oh. Oh, stunning. I'm going to wait for Aubrey to reposition, and then I'm going to move for them. I just don't want too many vehicle engines on at one moment. She's coming straight towards us. Bonnet of the car. Sorry guys, I'll move when I can. She comes along underneath this little cluster leaf. Right up behind the vehicle. And back towards Taxon's vehicle. Just imagine being a guest in that car and enjoying a sighting like that. Right, we're going to let Taxon and Aubrey take over and have a better look so that their guests can see what's happening while we turn around. Let's just move forward a little bit. We definitely won't be able to get a view of her from where we are now. So that playful behavior, the way that she was sort of hopping and skipping about, that was in response to whatever it is that she's been smelling. I'm just going to let the other vehicles go ahead of us so that the guests do have an experience, because Aubrey's poor guests had to look through us and over us in order to see the leopard there. So while we let them go ahead and have a look, and we wait for our chance to reposition, let's go back to James, find out what he's doing.
So nice to see a new, well, I mean, not a new leopard, I don't think, but an unusual leopard for us that we don't see very often. I think that's just very special indeed. We've just walked along. We saw an elephant, but it was in some very thick bush, and she didn't seem to react to us at all. We were walking along the road like this, and Steph went elephant, so we walked off sort of like this, skulked off into the bush, checked the wind. The wind was good for us. Elephant didn't react at all, but not a good sort of viewing spot through in the thick bush there, so we left her alone. And of course, many of you will be asking yourselves, isn't it dangerous to be walking out there like this? And the answer is, if you react correctly and you're aware, then no, it's probably more dangerous to go wandering through Central Park of an evening than it is to go walking here, if you have the correct training. Just have a look at this termite mound here, which has got an old friend of termite mounds on it. This is an old weeping bourbean tree that has long since died, and also at the hands of elephants. If you look carefully, well, you don't even have to look carefully, everybody, you can look without care, and you can see that the elephants did exactly what they did to that marula tree here. They took away the bark. That killed the tree, and then it opened it up. If you look over here, Darby, this is actually really nice. I don't know if you can get up here without falling over with that heavy backpack. See the holes here that have been excavated probably by woodpeckers, initially by beetles, probably wood-boring beetles that will lay their eggs in the holes, and then the grubs will emerge or hatch into the holes, and those will then be drilled out by woodpeckers. So even this dead tree forms something of a useful form of ecosystem for various animals. And it's a sad old giant, and will one day fall over, like that branch has just come off, and that's just the way it goes. Okay, we're going to go across to Sam. Apparently our picture's getting a little bit pixelated. We'll see you just now.
So we tracked the female lion as best as we could, and then she went deep into the block. So now we've come back down towards the drainage basin where we lost the wild dogs a little bit earlier. So we've seen a whole bunch of things going on around us, such as 2 vultures that are circling the sky. Now we've decided, let's drive the drainage line again and see if anything is getting flushed out from the wild dogs, or see if that female lioness has not come out on the cut line. So we're just going to go on a little bird ride, hold on tight, see what we can find down here. It's the same place where we saw the monkeys early. Gen V would like to know if wild dogs came across cubs, lion cubs, would they kill them? No, most of the time, no ways. It's too much of a risk for them to try and kill a cub, unless the cub is in a position where it's not being looked after, it's been abandoned or something like that. Most of the time, the female lionesses are not far away from their cubs. We're still with the leopard. Let's go and see how Jamie's doing with it.
There is another vehicle approaching the sighting, so when Mike from Cheetah Plains arrived, then it's time for us to leave this gorgeous girl flaming grimacing once again. Now, I said that she could be smelling Tingana's scent, and that could well be an answer. She could also be smelling either the scent marks of Karula or Shadow. She's straying very far into Karula's territory. Now, our much-loved queen is getting on in years, and she's much smaller than this female, and that could be one of the reasons why, without us realizing, we knew that Karula had decided to den further to the south and was often moving into Torchwood more often than expected. And I think we might have one of the explanations as to why. This female starting to establish her own territory in this area. Now, another leopard has very clearly walked down and urinated on that particular bush. That's why she's so fascinated by it. That snarl face opens up the organ of Jacobson on the roof of her mouth and allows her to almost taste the smell of whatever urine particles are left on those leaves. My suspicion is that it's Tingana's scent marking, because she hasn't scent marked on top of it. Beautiful girl. She slowly moves further south along essentially what is the boundary of Karula's route. Sandy in Missouri, you were wondering what would happen if she encountered Shadow or Karula, and whether or not they would fight, and the answer is yes. And because they are not related, they would actually could fight very, very seriously. Some of the most savage leopard fights recorded have not been between males, but between unrelated females. So a fight between Shadow or Karula and this female would be something quite incredible to witness. Hopefully it doesn't occur, because both Shadow and Karula are, in my opinion, apart from experience and age, they are quite severely outmatched by this big girl. And as I said, once we do leave the sighting, once Mike does arrive, I will give you a sense of perspective just up against my legs, exactly where Shadow, Karula and this female would actually stand. What a spectacular sighting we've had this morning. How lucky are we? She is truly beautiful. I hope that she doesn't mean a threat to Karula and her bloodline, but she might just appropriate a little corner of their territory. In general, I said that females fight savagely. In general, they will avoid it as far as possible, whereas males will actively seek to be rid of rivals. A leopardess would rather avoid the confrontation. So she might just slowly appropriate this little corner of territory. Guys, I think it's time for us to leave this sighting. Taxon and Aubrey will be staying with her. Mike is on his way. He will be here very, very soon. But at least we've had, I'm going to try and get you one last glimpse, and then we shall move on. I was about to say, I wonder when she's going to turn west again, because she's pushed further and further and further east into the real what we always thought of as the center of Karula's territory. But Karula's moved. I think she's moved the heart of her territory almost completely. It pays to be flexible as a leopard. I think we can squeeze through here. Monkey orange thicket galore. But amazing to see her behavior, smelling what I'm almost certain was scent marking from Tingana. Alright, she's very much on the move. Having three of us trying to follow her through here. There she is, there. See her there, Bryan. Our last glimpse of Tsukani, the female leopard, who is new on the block. What an exciting way to continue our morning. Here she goes, a smattering of spots amongst the leaves. Wonderful. Speaking of wonderful things, let's head back across to James and see what he's up to.
Got him. Spider, everybody, spider. We think an orb spider, but what she was doing before you came across was eating her web. Now this is a common thing for a nocturnal spider to do, especially an orb web spider like the bark spiders, where the female will rebuild her nest every single evening. And I suspect that this spider, whatever she is, I don't know what species she is, has done exactly the same. Now, the reason for that is, of course, during the day you get much sort of heavier insects flying around, birds and that sort of thing, which might be led to her to eat her even if she left her web out during the day. So what she does is fold it up, and at night she spreads it out, and the nocturnal insects and moths and those sorts of things will fly into the web during the night, and then during the day she folds it all up again. But what she does leave is the kind of, I don't know if you can see them, Dave, the strands, the support strands of the orb. And so she eats up the kind of intricate lattice work, and she'll leave these support strands which are not sticky. So she'll leave them up there for the course of the day and then sort of reattach the traditional orb web once the evening comes along. Very nice, very nice. Okay, on we go. Sorry you lost us just now. That was just a function of the fact that our batteries had run out. But now we're back online for the last little while. We're going to go through the woodland here, see what other interesting things we can find. Very good question. Ravi, I'm not sure what the answer to this question is. You say that what happens to the dead termites when they die in a mound? Are they eaten by the other termites, or what happens to them? You know, termites are almost universally, in fact I think they are universally herbivores. I don't think they eat any kind of meat ever. And I suspect what happens is the carcasses are probably dragged off to the fungus gardens perhaps. And the fungus gardens will then, or the mycelia of the fungus that the termites grow, will then sort of digest the dead termites. But that's a really good question. I don't know. Where does a termite go to die? In the same way that people don't know where elephants go to die quite often. Maybe there's a great termite graveyard somewhere within each mound. Now, James Richard, I don't know if you're watching this morning, but yesterday you asked for an extremely easy thing to find. You would have thought some antelope tracks. Here is quite a nice antelope track. I will outline it with my stick. And this antelope track, can you see it there nicely, Dave?
Not yet.
Okay, it's this thing here. Alrighty.
Yep.
This is a wildebeest track, or a gnu, and the easiest way that I remember which track this is by looking how straight the edge is. You can see how straight that edge is. It's not very rounded, and at the front there's almost a sort of square tip. It doesn't form a neat tapering point. It forms quite a square front to the track. And so that's how I remember a wildebeest track or gnu track. So single bull, I think, has come through this area. Now, if you're a particularly brilliant bushman tracker, you'd be able to find this gnu. You and I, James Richard, would be wandering about here possibly for the next 10 years if I was to try and find this gnu through here. Not easy to follow the tracks of a gnu, although he's walking on a very obvious game path through here. Now, a game path is something like this. It's kind of petering out now, but it's a path that animals will follow, and rather like us, they don't like walking through the grass for the same reasons. It tickles their legs, they pick up burrs which irritate the skin, and they also pick up ticks which they don't very much like either. Brent Leo Smith, of course, can't walk past a fairly long piece of grass without getting tick bite fever. And so these game paths form naturally, especially when elephants walk on them. So they're a good place, if you're looking for different kinds of tracks, they're a good place to find tracks to look at. We'll see what else we can see on here. I don't know if you can hear, but the wind is picked up as the sun has come out, and it's blowing in. I'm sure it's heralding the arrival of a cold front.
So we've just headed towards the other part of our property now to see what might be happening at Treehouse Dam, as the female lioness tracks headed straight into the block, and we walked it for a while to see if we can find it, but we decided to come back out and see if we might be able to find any other tracks coming around this area. No one's driven here this morning. The wild dogs could very well have just run in this direction. So we've searched so many different places, and we found no tracks coming in and out. So they're either lying down in the deep part of the bush somewhere, or they went back the same way they went. But it's been, we've been looking quite hard for these animals, but that leopard-faced vulture was incredible to see. They are the largest of the vultures to see, and they dominate at all the kills. So when you see a leopard-faced vulture, they really are quite big, and they'll eat. They don't actually eat the meat. They look to eat kind of like the skin and just the other parts of the body. So like the more difficult ones, because they've got such strong beaks that they'll rip into the parts of the body that the other vultures cannot get to, which is quite interesting to watch. You'll see that there's a whole hierarchy between the vultures. And the leopard-face is the king of the vultures, or the one vulture that'll push and shove all the other vultures out of the way. So that vulture was most definitely telling us a story this morning. We weren't sure on what it was, but it was here for a reason. Something was happening last night. There are loads of tracks of the female leopard, the female lioness. As you know, there's been lots going on this morning. It's been quite a wild morning, to say the least. From wild dogs to female leopards, and even on Bushwalk with nice beautiful spiders with James Hendry. Okay, so we're just coming up to Treehouse Dam now. Let's see what... So we are at Treehouse Dam. It seems fairly quiet over here at the moment as we drive in. Not even a buffalo wallowing in the water or grazing on its perimeters. But it's quite a nice point where you can get a good vantage on having a look around to see if there's anything moving in that direction. So we still got quite a fair amount of water left in Treehouse Dam, which is great because it's going to start getting very hot and dry as the winter months come through. And this might be a spot for many, many predators to come and drink. So we'll be coming here often. And if we just look down this drainage line, also very good to see if you can see anything that might be crawling or lurking or running like a nyala from a wild dog. But it seems fairly barren. So the best bet that we have now is just to keep working the track, seeing if we can find any tracks that are heading in any direction. And, you know, we feel, I don't know that female leopard that Jamie's with at the moment. Ooh, what crossed here? Yeah. Have a look at that. We've got some scrape marks. Let's have a look. So let's investigate the situation a little bit. So it looks like something's been dragged from this side through here. So it's hyena, definitely hyena tracks, and it's heading in this direction. That's very interesting. Vultures, hyenas, and scrape marks going around everywhere. Surely there's something going on around here. There's definitely a story that's to be told. We're going to just drive this road and see if we can find something that might be lurking on its perimeter. Is it? So let me just get on the vehicle and turn around and chat to Kirsty, see if we can work this. All right, we're just going to see what we can find. So tracking is pretty much like being an investigator. We're going to try and investigate the scene, see what's going on. So in the meantime, while we investigate this scene, let's go and see how Jamie's doing.
I know that you were watching Vultures with Sam earlier, and I don't know if they were the same group as this collection. I don't think so, however. They're all utilizing the thermals, but they're very, very focused on an area around Simbambili, and they're flying very, very low, although some taking off still. Now, I don't know what's been happening. Obviously, I've been away, but there is a whole host of vultures taking off and soaring around, and they're coming down, they're coming up, not from the trees, but from the ground. So there was some kind of a kill on that side. I don't know whether it was a lion kill or anything similar, but there's a lot of vultures which suggests it was a large kill of some variety, maybe a buffalo. Let's go and just investigate around that corner. I don't think we're going to be able to see anything, unfortunately, but a large kill would also explain the presence of a leopard-faced vulture, the largest species that you're likely to see out here, with its incredibly powerful bull, and typically they are present at the larger kills, buffalo carcasses, hippo carcasses, giraffe, anything along those sorts of lines, that sort of size, where they're guaranteed enough food. Most of the vultures that we've been watching now are white-backed. I did also see a bateleur soaring around in there, which is another bird of prey that very often scavenges. Now the question is, are they coming down to investigate something? It doesn't look like it. It looks as though they've finished off a kill. That looks like it might have been a leopard, actually. No, it's white-backed. Oh, coated in dust. I think that they've finished something and are now making sure that it's all gone before they head off. Isn't this absolutely incredible? Watching a vulture fly really gives you an idea of just what incredible aerial machines they really are. You can see how those tips of the primary feathers working to control the glide, just changing the direction of the airflow ever so slightly, and basically creating the most energy efficient glide as they use the warm air currents rising from the ground as the day gets warmer. And I think we're right about our assessment. I think that they are taking off from what was a kill, but we are going to go and check, because I can see a whole load of them sitting on a dead tree quite close by. Wow. Incredible sighting. So while we loop around and go and have a look at all of them in the dead tree, let's go back over to James and find out how the walk is going.
Now, I don't know if you can see what we're looking at, everybody, but there's a blue pansy butterfly there, so named for the bright blue spots on the back of its wings. But when it folds its wings up, it is almost completely invisible, and it's the most brilliant disguise. Now, what I shall do is point it out to you with my stick, but you will see the shadow of my stick coming into frame, and there it is now touching the butterfly. Can you see that, David?
Yes.
Is it not astonishing, everybody? Completely hidden. And watch, what I'm going to do is now try and befall on the butterfly to open its wings for you. So Dave, you might want to pull out a little bit, because I think you'll probably fly. I actually can't see him anymore, but I'm going to walk into the area where he was. Cannot see him. Am I getting closer, Dov? He will open his wings now. Oh, there, I can see him. There. Oh, he's gone. I'm just watching him. Oh, come past me. He's landed. Come quickly this way. Sometimes when they land, they open their wings briefly. There. There he goes. There we go. There we go. There, you might be able to see but you can certainly see the black on the front wings. You can't see the blue on the other wings, on the hind wings, but that's the blue pansy. If you come around this way, Dave, you can see, you might be able to get a picture. And we're just going to try and enjoy the butterflies now for the next little while, because as the season turns to the dry season, so the butterflies will disappear. Right, from one fairly sort of You got him there. There we go, beautiful. So from a very basic and fairly unsophisticated flyer, let's go back to the white-backed vulture with Jamie.
Most of our vultures have
We
now
still got her, but
disappeared.
she's, more to the south of the power line.
And I
so
think
heading
we're
a
right.
little bit more to the south.
They are taking off from a kill. Sorry, my attention is completely split between what Tax is saying to me on the Game Drive channel.
You copy that, Jamie?
Copy that. Thanks so much, Tax. Enjoy. About where Tsakani is going, just so that we have a plan for this afternoon. We can catch up with her then. And it's just been the most incredible experience to watch these vultures in action. The way that they're gliding. And some incredible camera work as always on Bryan's part. Managing to keep the super zoom on our vultures as they duck below the tree line. I promised you that I would take you around to the dead tree where a lot of them are sitting. Let's go and have a look. On the vultures in these numbers, I would say there's probably, if I had to guess, I would say 40 of them, possibly even more. And basically what happens is, with their incredible vision, as soon as one vulture spots something worth descending to, and they come down, the other vultures spot that motion, and they all start to gather around an area. So whilst I said that it was most likely a large kill that had attracted their attention, sometimes it happens that the vultures actually trick themselves into thinking that there's more than there is. And that was the case with the aardvark, the dead aardvark that James found, where we probably had about 60 vultures gathering to investigate what everybody else was looking at, only to find themselves probably sorely disappointed at the meager meal left for them to scavenge. So that might have been something that could have occurred here. I'm going to check up with Tristan on Simbambili and just see if he knows what has attracted their attention here. They've also, of course, had to wait for the morning to warm up. As you can hear, the wind is howling, which has put paid to the day heating up as much as it was going to. Let's try and find you the best spot. There's a couple of them still reluctant. Ellen's also thinking along the same lines I am, and I didn't mention it because I wasn't 100% sure, but Ellen has asked whether or not there's a chance the vultures could have taken off because of the presence of vultures or lions. And the answer is yes, absolutely. We've got one of the other birds of prey also scavenging. Now this is definitely something interesting. So Ellen, yes, absolutely, they could be up in the air because they've been disrupted from the carcass they were scavenging on. Oh, our tall eagle just fluttering up there out of view. However, chances are when a vulture is disrupted from the kill that it's feeding on, when they are dislodged, what they generally do is they flutter up to the trees above the kill, and they don't really go that much further away from it, because they'd rather sit and wait patiently. Depending on the size of the kill, they'd rather sit and wait patiently. And it appears that somebody definitely has an airport transfer to make. So let me just move out of the way, judging by the speed. Oh, no, he's back. There we go. Yes, definitely on their way to the airport. Somebody worrying about being late. Another slightly shabbier looking white-backed vulture. Oh, hold on. Let's just listen for 1 second. No. Oh, this is one of those moments. They're fighting. The vultures are fighting just off into Simbambili over a carcass. So that's why some of them are flying. There's obviously not enough to go around. And there's obviously a huge group of them just off to my right. It's making those screeching, almost prehistoric-like calls. just to let you know why it's frustrating, we can't go there. It is outside of our traverse zone. So all we can do is, much like the vultures, pick up the scraps of the sighting. Watch the vultures coming and going and sitting up in the trees. Oh, they probably shouldn't describe them as scraps. That's not very fair. But we know that the juiciest, meatiest part of the sighting is happening just beyond where we can see it. And vultures fighting over a kill is incredible to watch. They're very large birds, and they've got very, as you can see, powerful, sharp bills, and they're not afraid to put those to work. I was actually watching a documentary a couple of days ago about a group of vultures chasing a cheetah off her kill. She just didn't have the energy or the strength to fight back. It's not unheard of. They'd have less luck with a lion, or even a leopard. But the poor cheetah was sent packing. Now, forgive me, I'm sure I'm being very stupid, but what is the collective noun for vultures? Because I'm sure I should know. Oh, there we go. Some interesting information coming through from Final Control. A kettle of vultures, if they are flying. I can't quite understand that. Is it to do with temperatures, boiling? Kettle doesn't make any sense at all. But it is a venue of vultures, if they are sitting, if they are on the ground, or perched on a tree. I feel as though a buffet of vultures is also quite a good one, but that's just me. Anyway, we're going to leave our venue of one vulture, which doesn't really count, and send you across to a kettle of vultures with James.
Now, I'm sure these vultures, there are a whole lot of them coming across from the west there, which is exactly where Jamie was. I'm sure they've spotted a new thermal somewhere around here. There are a whole heap of them flying over us in a southeasterly direction. There they are. Isn't that great? So Jamie's directly, basically, in the flight path backwards of those vultures. And they've obviously spotted some other kind of thermal off to the southeast, and that's what they're going to find. That's so cool. I spotted one, and then there were 3 more, and suddenly all of them now are following each other. And that, of course, is why we think they have that very distinctive white back. They are by far the most sort of gregarious flocking vultures, and we think that they follow each other's white backs. The sun reflects off them, and that helps them to see each other as they find both food and thermals. That's brilliant. I was saying a little while back, and I still believe it to be true, that the vultures, since I began working in this area 15 years ago, are inescapably diminished. They are far fewer than they used to be. And there was a paper I read recently, or an article, just lamenting the decline of vultures and saying that they're actually still in quite a lot of trouble, mainly through their use in traditional medicine. And of course there are hundreds and hundreds of desperate people out here looking for some way to make money so they can catch a vulture and sell the carcass for 5,000 rand or so. Well, you know, if it's that or making your family starve, the vulture's the one that's going to cop it. What we found here is a scorpion. Well, it's the end of a scorpion's pincer, if you like. And I don't know if you can see it there, but it was eaten by a honey badger, and I'll show you the very distinctive way that it was dug out of the soil here. So if you come down over here, we found this pincer lying here, obviously not a very tasty part of this particular burrowing scorpion. But the scorpion would have lived inside this burrow. It wouldn't have been anything like this size. And the honey badger would have come up, found the burrow, dug the scorpion out, eaten most of it. Obviously didn't like the hard chitin on the edge of the pincers. Left that, ate one of the pincers obviously, and then probably went fossicking off somewhere else. They'll eat a lot of scorpions. They'll eat a lot of anything, basically. Anything they can overpower, a honey badger will eat. very intelligent, highly good at, or very good at problem solving, is the African honey badger. Interestingly, it doesn't eat honey. I suppose it would if it could find some. But when they break open, they're called honey badgers because they break open nests of what am I going with? Beehives. They open beehives, and they eat the wax and they eat the larvae of the bees. Obviously, by default, they're going to eat the honey as well. But I don't think honey is particularly nutritious for them necessarily. Ooh, come over here, Dave. There's a grasshopper here that has got flash coloration, and when it explodes off the ground, I'm going to try and catch it. When it explodes off the ground, it will be a flash of yellow. Oh, you see it there? Okay, here it is. Come over here, Dave. Come right over here. You're going to struggle to spot this, everybody. Basically, let me try the shadow pointing trick again. He's on the bottom, on this pile of sticks over here, right in the middle. Can you see him? No. I'll walk around him. If you see him, it's going to be fantastic, but if you don't, okay, I'm going to point at him with my shadow. The shadow is not really working. There we go. He's at the edge of my shadow, of my stick's shadow now. No view yet. Okay, Dave, he's right underneath my stick. He's right underneath my stick on this pile of sticks. He's brown. You can just see his little feelers. They're the same color as a leaf. We will keep trying, everyone. You see him, Dave? You got him. That's brilliant. Now what he does is he lies completely invisible like that until he is surprised. And when he's surprised, he opens his wings out and leaps off into the sky, and it creates this flash of yellow, and that will then startle a predator. And as the predator is startled, so the grasshopper will then fold his wings down, fall to the ground, and disappear from view again. It's brilliant. You see him moving there, Dave? Can you actually see him? Okay, Kirsten can see him. Dave doesn't know what he's filming, everyone. What I will try and do is see if I can't catch him. Oh, he's gone. That was him. And just quickly over here, we spoke earlier about one of the spiders that makes its nests in these grass inflorescences. Here's another one. This one has left home, but just an amazing intricate nest of lattice work, and what it has left here is the exoskeleton of something that it ate while it was still resident on this guinea grass. You see that, Dave? Yeah. Amazing, the little things that you find out here. If you stop to look, it's quite astonishing. Righty, on we go. I've just heard the call of breakfast, and the call of breakfast out here is the call of the chin spot batis, and it goes and so we're heading slowly back towards the camp, where I'm hoping Amanda has cooked us up some eggs. That will be delicious to go with the seeds and coffee that is the standard fare. And as we go through slightly thicker bush like this, we do walk that much more slowly. We just need to be very careful that there isn't something lying in the bush, like a buffalo. Leopard, while we walk gently through here, attempting not to get David snagged up in a tree. You want to know what my favorite plant or favorite insect is? I think my favorite plant out here, Leopard, is probably the low-felt milkberry, Manilcara marchisa, which is a tree. Come, Dave.
Thank you.
Which is a tree that looks like hobbits live in it, or perhaps fairies. It's just got it looks like a fairy tale tree. And my favorite insect, I wonder what my favorite insect is. I'm not sure that I have a favorite insect necessarily. I do actually. The jewel beetles are my favorite things. The jewel beetles with their shiny iridescent carapaces are, I think, at least elytra, are my favorite insects out here. My least favorite, probably the Anopheles mosquito, followed closely by the sweat fly. Alright everybody, that's going to be it from us today. Thank you for joining me on my first bushwalk for a long time. Thank you, David. This was your second time on foot, wasn't it? Well done. You managed to carry the pack without falling over. A no mean feat at all. We'll see you this afternoon at about 3:30. I'm going to hand you back over to Jamie. Until then, stay safe and happy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
And as we come to the end of our sunrise safari, and what an exciting sunrise safari it has been, I encounter the animal that I saw for the very first drive, my very first drive back yesterday, which is this female warthog. She's got 2 piglets with her, but unfortunately the wind is making them terribly skittish. They're a little bit nervous. You can hear how the wind is gusting around us. And as with most animals, they find themselves particularly nervous in this kind of weather. There you can see the piglets at the back. Now, do I for absolute certain know that this is the same female with the 2 piglets that I saw yesterday? No, but I strongly suspect that it is. We're not that far away from Sydney's dam. I was on my way there just for one last-ditched attempt at trying to figure out where those lionesses vanished off to this morning. We got thoroughly distracted by the presence of the wild dogs, and we never quite solved that mystery. And that's something for us to unravel this afternoon on the sunset safari instead. Here we go. The little piglets have relaxed a bit, come back across to join Mom. And at close to 6 months old, they should, yes, I can just see those tusks starting to appear. Here we go, a little male. You see the 4 warts on his face, 2 at the top and 2 on the bottom, 1 on each side, immediately telling us that that is a male warthog. The females only have 2. And it's very difficult to see, but if you look carefully, you might just see the first glints of their tusks starting to poke through. What a lovely way to end off our billowy sunrise safari. And as time goes on, these little piglets need to make, or to take, as much advantage of the root systems that are out here before winter properly descends and the dry season really starts. At the moment, there's still a little bit of moisture, still a little bit of nutrients in the plant life around here, but the warthogs in particular are in for quite a tough time. And they'll have to try and make the most of what's left. Already the bush has changed completely in the 2 weeks that I've been gone. Now, as our warthog family starts to vanish, I did promise you a sense of scale, just to give you a rough idea as to why I kept saying that Tsakani was so much bigger than Quitila and Shadow. I've been trying to think about dog breeds, but it's a bit tricky because not all dog breeds in every country are exactly the same size. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop out really quickly and I'm going to show you up against my legs. So to give you a rough sense of scale, and I'm just going to go over here, Bryan, if that's all right.
Perfect.
Okay, so to give you a rough sense of scale, walk up. It's too windy! It's too windy, I forgot I don't have a lapel mic. Alright, Karula, so this is Karula Shadow Tundi, probably come up to maybe about here. At my legs, about my knee height. Tsukani would probably be here, standing next to me. Now that still doesn't give you the perfect perspective of scale, but there's probably about, I would say, a 3-inch difference in their heights, and then again in their weight. That will probably translate to at least 10 kilograms heavier, which would be about 22 odd pounds. Now, to give you a sort of rough idea of scale, I'm about 5'7", so maybe that will help you in terms of roughly grading exactly where those leopards would fall in terms of heights. So Karula and Tandi, relatively tiny leopards, whereas with Tsakani, first time I've seen her, she's quite a lot bulkier. Probably from a, as we know with Quintila, a very different genetic stock, at least in terms of the female side. So she comes from a group of leopards known as the Vombo leopards, which are river leopards, much larger, much more able to compete for the more desired territory. Well, an exciting morning, a new leopard for me. Only the second time Bryan has seen her, and probably a new leopard for a lot of you as well who might have missed the first time she was seen. Right, this afternoon we will focus on finding those wild dogs and those lions. In the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you, Bryan, for all of your fantastic camera work as always. And thank you to the lovely ladies in Final Control, and to Sam and James and Dave and Wium. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we'll catch you this afternoon. Cheers.
So the last time that we saw you, we were at Treehouse Dam, which is probably around 1 kilometer in a southerly direction, and we have just been following these drag marks. Both Wium and I were walking through the bush to see if we could find where the drag marks are going, and they've now come down into Philemon's Dip, and they're heading through this drainage line somewhere down here. So there's every chance that there could be a leopard that has just been dragging it so far. I mean, I can't believe how far these drag marks have gone. So hopefully we'll be able to find them. We'll jump off the vehicle and we'll have a little look in the drainage line after the show to see if we can maybe relocate, and then this afternoon we can bring the vehicle there and see if we found a leopard. With that, cheapers, there is flies all over me at the moment. It's been such an active morning. Vultures everywhere in the sky, to leopards walking around, to wild dogs. You can't believe, you think you see the wild dogs, your adrenaline immediately just goes into a new gear or first gear, and you just drive around the property and expect to see them, but you just don't. You know, they're the type of animals that you could turn around or go left or go right. Not like a leopard or a lion, which will kind of follow a similar path most of the time for scent marking and all those relative things. So we'll be out on drive this afternoon, and we'll take a look around, not only at Buffelshoek, where we saw the female lioness that was heavily pregnant, but we're going to see if we can come back down into this drainage line and see if we can find anything that will be interesting. But it's been great to be with you for the last week. I've had an amazing time, and Wium and I say thank you Wium, for your fantastic camera work. It's been so much fun to follow you through here. Thank you, Kirsty, for directing, and we shall see you for the afternoon safari. See you later.